Hello everyone, this is Coach Michelle coming to you live from Atlanta. Today's video is on a frequently asked question. What are the pros and cons of investing in a franchise, a home care franchise? So I've decided to come live, share with you the information based on my experience as a franchise owner, my experience as an independent home care owner, and my experience as a consultant that has helped multiple people all over the country and a few internationally on starting and growing their home care agency. Get your pen and paper if you are thinking about or contemplating the pros and cons. Again, this is my feedback based on my information and experience, so don't judge me. Here we go. So the first thing is investing in a franchise a good idea? Absolutely. It truly depends on what your needs are. Let me give you a little bit of history about me and who I am, right? So in 2003, I became an entrepreneur. I was in corporate, decided to take an early buyout, and wanted to become a business owner. At that time, I didn't have any experience. So I did my due diligence, and I decided to invest in a franchise. At that time, I thought it was fabulous. They gave me my policies, my procedures on how to interact with clients, and I thought I had everything that I needed. So at that time, you know how I always say, it could be good, could be bad, who knows? At that time, it was absolutely perfect. However, 6 months into it, I realized this was not the best decision for me. I had already mastered the system. They were actually sending their prospects to me to filter through the system to sell them on how great I was doing and all of the accolades that I was receiving. And they were pretty much using me as a selling tool, right? Because they wanted people to hear from the people that were doing well. I found out, I said to myself, you know what? This is not working. So I was able to get out of my franchise and I was able to do it on my own. So that's a little bit of my story just to let you guys know I understand where you are. I was there, right? So I was there as a franchise owner, right? Different industry. I was there as a newbie doing homework, my due diligence on how to start a home care agency. I've been there. And then on the other side, as a consultant, I've worked with many people in the same exact space you are in right now. So here we go, no filter, no BS, straight to the point, giving you the pros and cons because there are quite a few. The first thing is it's a proven system, right? It's a proven system. So people invest in franchises because they've already went out into the field, they've done the work, they have results, and it's a proven system. So we're gonna put that down as a check. That is definitely a pro. Versus you not knowing anything and trying to do it on your own, definitely a pro, right? So then we have franchise fees, right? So this could be a con because the franchise fee, the initial fee is quite substantial. The ongoing fees are quite substantial. The investment is, right? So there's a lot of numbers. There's multiple numbers. So you have your initial investment to say, hey, I'm a part of the franchise. Then you have your operating costs. And then you have your royalty. Then you have your marketing fee. So what does that look like? It varies from franchise to franchise. In the home care industry, you're looking at, it could be as low as $19,500, right? However, that's not comparing apples to apples when you're thinking about one of the big boys that start with an H or A. Well, no, I can't say an A because there's some smaller companies with an A, right? So I'll just use some of the big boys, right? You could go from paying $19,000 for an initial investment all the way up to say $50,000, $60,000 for an initial investment. It just depends. And then you have your operating expenses. So they want you to have, say, $20,000 versus this one may say you have to have $175,000. You know, so it just depends. So you have your liquid cash, right? So liquid assets. So they may say you need to have in the bank or have access to $50,000. You may need to have access to $200,000. So it varies, right? So those could be considered cons for many of us that may not have that type of information, well, not information, that type of money easily accessible or assets easily accessible, right? So you have to figure out, is that a pro for you or is that a con for you, right? So it just depends. And then we have in the marketing, right? So the marketing could be a percentage. It could be a flat fee. I've seen it as low as 2% every single month that you're responsible for. I've seen it as high as $3,000 a month that you're responsible for the marketing. You have royalty fees, right? So a royalty fee means every month, based on your revenue, you're paying a specific amount, right? So it could be 3%, it could be 5%, it could be 7%, it could be 13%. It just depends, right? So it varies industry to industry. It varies from franchisor to franchisor. So when you're going out there and you're doing your due diligence, make sure you're asking all of these fine questions, right? How much is the initial startup fee? What is included in the initial startup fee? What do I need from an operational financial perspective? How much do I need to have access to, right? Liquid cash, access to specific assets, right? All of these different questions, you're gonna ask, what is the marketing fee? What if I'm not generating money? Do I still need to pay these fees? And if so, what's the minimum, right? Because that's something to take into consideration. Even if you're not making money, you have not generated any revenue in your business, you're still responsible. So instead of it being a percentage of your revenue, you may have a flat dollar amount, right? So hypothetically, say you've never, you just started and you haven't generated any money, any revenue in your business. So instead of doing a percentage of whatever, they may say you need to pay a flat fee of $300, $500. Again, it just depends on who you're with. Same thing with the marketing fee. Another expense would be, the majority of the franchises will say you need to have an office, right? Versus working from home. Even though many states allow you to work from home when you're starting your home care agency and just going through the licensing process. There's no stipulations around, no, you need to get an office before you start, unless you're in a few states. There are a few states that say you must have an office up front. Let's see. Another pro is the advertising. They do a super fantastic job at advertising. So they do commercials, they do search engine optimization. So they do a great job with advertising to get the brand out there, right? So it's not advertising getting your company out there. It's more so as a whole, as a unit, right? So as a unit, as a family, as a brand, they do their advertising, and then that way it trickles down to all the different territories regardless of where you are. Now, speaking of territory, let me jump into that, because with a franchise, and this is considered a con for me, right? Because when I purchased my franchise, I had a territory, and one of the requirements was that I started from the zip code that I lived in. I personally wanted to work in a more affluent area than I lived in 2003. However, the requirement was that I start with my home base, because they want you to be known where you live, which is a very good philosophy. I teach my clients the same thing, to say, you know, be known as the local expert in your area, and then you start to branch off. So I think the philosophy of a franchise with that concept is great. However, the con to it is that you're limited, right? So if you are investing in a franchise like I did, then you can only service that area. So say your mother lives in, so say you're in Fulton County, and Fulton County is your territory, and your mom lives in Cobb County, or your sister, you know, lives in Cherokee County, and they need home care, or their neighbor needs home care, or whatever it may be. That's outside of your territory. So you need to refer them to the franchise owner that's in that territory, unless you're in a franchise like I was in, where they allow you to go to that franchise and say, hey, is it okay if I service this person because it's my mom? Like, that sounds crazy. You have to go and get permission from someone else to service your mom. But again, I'm not here to judge, because there's benefits, there's pros and cons to being in a franchise. I did it. It did not necessarily work out for me. However, it may work for you, right? But I'm just giving you the facts. So you are, with your territory, you are within that territory. Once you decide you want to go outside of the territory, then you check with the franchisor and you ask for permission, right? Is this territory available? If it is available, now you have an additional investment, right? So for instance, like if you were not a part of a franchise unit or some type of membership, there's no limit on your territory, right? So some states will say when you're submitting your application for your license, you have to pick what area you're going to cover, right? So you may cover 10 counties, 5 counties, or 1 region, depending on what state you're in. But you're not limited to that, because once you get to a point and you want to expand, it's just simply contacting them. You may need to fill out a short application or some type of addendum or something like that to say, hey, I want to start servicing this territory. So there may be a small fee associated with it. Most states, there's no fees. Some states, there is a fee. Some states require you to have another office to cover, like a satellite office. So it just depends, because it varies state to state. My point in that is to let you know that when you're doing it as an independent owner, then there's no limit. If you say, hey, I want to open in Georgia, I want to expand to Alabama, then I want to go over to whatever other state, Florida, you're totally open to doing that. You just need to follow the rules and regulations to make sure, if it's a regulated state, that you get the appropriate licensing and business, you know, your business legalities and things like that set up, right? Franchise is different. You have to see if the territory is available, and then you have to invest in that territory, right? Another thing is contract. So you're signing a contract. My contract was 10 years. So it varies. You may have a 7-year contract. I haven't seen any less than that, but I haven't looked into a lot of home care franchises. So I'm just going off my experience, going off the clients that I have that invested in a franchise. So that goes back to you know, a franchise that I mentioned, and I'm not going to say any names because this is not to bash anyone by any means, because I think they're all, you know, great at what they do. This is just simply because I get this question so many times, so I'm just simply answering the question, and I'm being very transparent with it, right? So I have clients that have purchased a franchise on a lower scale, right? So one of the $20,000 franchises. What I found out, which I was totally blown away, is that they do not help you with getting your license. Duh, that's like the most important thing, getting your license and your policies and procedures, and then learning how to run the business. So I've personally, in my business, have helped franchisees get their license. So they pay them and then they pay me, right? So when you're doing your due diligence, make sure you ask, do you guys help with the policies and procedures? And are you going to help me get my state license? Are you going to give me what I need to obtain my state license? Very important. Let's see. Another pro is, let's see, the branding, right? Branding is very important for your business. A lot of people think branding is a logo. Well, I'm here to tell you, branding is much, much more than a logo. So franchises do a super fantastic job with branding. I remember when I first started my home care agency, and I would go into some clients, potential clients' home, and they would have, say, previously interviewed with a franchise owner. And then I would look over as a new person starting out. When I started my business, I only had a few $1,000s. My husband, you know, fund the business. Every week he was giving me money, right? So he was giving me money to invest in the business. You know, I borrowed $700 from my dad to help me get my insurance, right? So I had a very humble beginning. So when I went into potential client's home and I looked over and I seen marketing material from a franchise, it kind of made me feel bad. I felt like, OMG, like they're going to pick them over me because they're so professional. They have folders, trifolds, rack cards, business cards, magnets, pens, you name it, they had it. And they would just literally just give the clients like a whole packet, even though they didn't sign up. And I'm thinking to myself, all I have is this brochure. I didn't have flyers. I didn't have pens. I didn't have all of that. I had the knowledge. I had the desire. I had the passion, and I knew I wanted to serve. So once I got over that initial walk in and, oh my God, look, there it is. I just started to focus on serving. And that's how I got through it. Within my first few months of owning my home care business, I was already over 6 figures. So I figured it out, is what I'm trying to say, right? So you don't need all of that stuff to serve the community. Let's see. So I mentioned they have a proven system. They have great marketing. They do advertising as pros. And then some of the cons I mentioned is, you know, you're limited in your territory on who you could serve. You sign a contract that's for quite some time, a couple of years, up to 10 years is what I've seen and what mine was. You got to pay royalty fees. You pay a fee even if you're not making money. You have to pay a marketing fee. So those are some of the cons. Most of them want you to, and then of course, you know, the substantial out-of-pocket expense, what you have to have in the bank, what you have to have access to. You're using their name, right? So some people could see this as a pro and or a con. The pro is you have that brand recognition because they do a fabulous job creating brand recognition. But then on the other hand, where it could be a con is that you're branding somebody else's business. So in actuality, the way I felt like I was an employee for the franchise that I had. So, you know, it just depends. It could be good, could be bad, who knows? Branding, great, but you're not branding your name. So it depends on if, you know, you're leaving a legacy, if you're trying to brand, you know, your surname, if you're trying to brand, you know, the family member, like some of my clients start their businesses and, you know, tribute to a grandmother or a spouse or someone like that. So it really depends on what it is, what your goals are. So you really have to dissect everything. What I'm going to suggest to you guys is that you write down what it is you're trying to accomplish. And then you see if it's best for you to go with a franchise. If you do, kudos to you. Write down, you know, if it may be best for you to do it yourself. If so, kudos. You may want to invest in a consultant like myself. I have, you know, a little bit about our program. We have a VIP hybrid program that is absolutely amazing. We've had great success with it. We have wonderful reviews. We have clients that are just like you, walking and we're holding their hand through the process. In our VIP hybrid program, it gives you every single thing you need to know. So I'm not going to spend this video talking about the hybrid. If you want information, you want to learn more about it, you can go to michelleleellis.com. Michelle has 1 L, michelleleellis.com, and you can learn more about the VIP hybrid program. Or you can simply send me an email at info@michelleleellis.com. And of course, you know, we can reach out to you from that end. So let's get back to the frequently asked question. Let's see if there's anything else that I can think of. I think that's about it, guys. So I know I went through quite a bit. So of course you can stop the video. You can record, fast forward the video, take notes and different things like that. So here it is. Again, Coach Michele coming to you live from Atlanta. My experience answering a frequently asked question. If you have a frequently asked question and you would love for me to go live via video, feel free to shoot me an email or drop a message below and we will add it to our list. Before you go, make sure you like this video and subscribe so you can be alerted as soon as the next video is dropped. Take care, God bless, and I wish you much success in your business.